Wacky Wednesday.
From a strange broad daylight sighting outside a British pub in 2013 to flying saucers spotted in the 1940s and 50s, we count 20 strange and plausible UFO sightings. Number 20. Edwards Air Force Base sighting. One can't blame the US Air Force for being sensitive about matters involving UFOs. In 1957, one supposedly landed at Edwards Air Force Base. If that sounded like an insane myth, keep in mind that it was allegedly caught on film and was reported to Gordon Cooper, a test pilot and astronaut in the United States' first manned space program. He was at Edwards supervising an installation of a new landing system at the time, and his account of the incident was pretty clear-cut, as you can see from this black and white photo above. Number 19. Chicago O'Hare incident. When several people state that they observed a saucer-shaped aircraft hovering around before bolting quickly into the sky, it's tempting to assume that they don't know much about aircraft. But when such an incident occurred in Chicago 2006, it was pretty difficult to make that case. It took place at O'Hare International Airport, and most of the people that saw it were actually United Airlines employees. Number 18. Mariana Incident. In 1950, on the night of August 15, minor league baseball manager Nick Mariana became the first person to capture film footage of a UFO. It happened as he was inspecting the diamond before a game in Great Falls, Montana, which had since become a hotbed for UFO sightings and is close to a US Air Force base. Number 17. The McMinnville Incident. In Oregon of May 1950, a farmer named Mr. Trent saw a UFO outside the McMinnville farm, and according to Mr. Trent, his wife Evelyn first spotted the object, a silvery metallic disc. She was outside feeding her rabbits when it appeared in the early evening sky. She called out to her husband, who came outside and watched for a couple of minutes. He then went back inside and got a camera and took 2 pictures before the object sped off to the west. Number 16. The Westall UFO. On April 6, 1966, in Melbourne, Australia, witnesses say a silver disc-shaped craft was spotted whizzing around and then landed in a paddock near a high school and then took off again. It would be a somewhat typical report of the type that is normally just a prank, except that this incident was observed by over 200 people in broad daylight, and no explanation has ever been offered. Number 15. The Portage County Chase. According to skeptics, half a dozen or so police officers chased a communications satellite into the Ohio wilderness and across the state line into Pennsylvania into the pre-dawn hours of April 17, 1966. When this official report was released, the police officers involved had a less than receptive response. In fact, they were infuriated by the insinuation that they could have been that stupid, and it turned out at the time, no one believed the police officers. Number 14. The 1976 Tehran UFO. This incident was a radar and visual sighting of an unidentified flying object over Tehran, the capital of Iran, during the early morning hours of 19th September 1976. During the incident, 2 F-4 Phantom fighter jets supposedly lost instrumentation and communications as they approached the UFO. One of the aircrafts also supposedly suffered temporary weapon systems failure while preparing to open fire on the UFO. Number 13. The Trans Am Province Incident. The incident took place at the Trans Am Province in January 1981 and has been called the most carefully documented sighting of all time. Retired farmer Renato Nicolai was working on his garden when he heard a sudden whistling sound, accompanied by the appearance of something that he immediately took to be an experimental aircraft in broad daylight. He watched as a saucer-shaped craft between 5 and 6 feet in diameter dropped out of the sky, stopping to hover for about a minute or two about 6 feet off the ground. Then it rose into the sky with a plume of dust in its wake. Nikolai says he was about 30 meters or 100 feet away the whole time this happened. Number 12. The Belgium UFO Wave. The Belgium UFO wave began in November 1989. The events of November 29th, 1989 would be documented by no less than 30 different groups of witnesses and 3 separate groups of police officers, and all of the reports related to a large object flying at low altitude. The craft was a flat triangular shape with lights underneath. This craft made not a sound as it slowly, fearlessly moved across the landscape of Belgium. The Belgium UFO was sighted by an estimated 13,500 people on the ground, 2,600 of who filed written statements describing in detail just what they had seen. Number 11. The Bracknell Pub Pier, 2013. Mr. Lambert, of age 42, was on the terrace of a running horse pub in Bracknell, Berkshire, when he spotted two lights in the distant sky on a Friday night. One of the witnesses said, "I was drinking with my girlfriend and her son. I went outside to make a photograph call when something caught my attention." He continues to say, "It was around 8 p.m. at night, so there was a little bit of sun left, but it was mainly overcast. It was heading south, west, and quicker than a normal aircraft." He also said, "I only saw it for less than 5 seconds, and I have seen a lot of funny things in the sky, and I have always practiced trying to take photographs quickly on my mobile phone, and I am interested to see if anyone else saw it and whether or not there are other witnesses." Number 10. The Phoenix Lights, also identified as the Lights over Phoenix, was a UFO sighting which occurred in Phoenix, Arizona, and Sonora on Thursday, March 13th, 1997. Light